Look around any airport gate at the scores of travelers hunched over their bags, desperately trying to squeeze, zip, and sometimes sit on their carry-ons, and tell me you don't see a collective, unspoken panic. It's a modern ritual of mild desperation, played out on carpeted stages across the world, where otherwise rational people become convinced that the fate of their entire trip hinges on not checking a bag. We've all been fed a diet of tips, hacks, and outright myths about carry-on luggage, turning what should be a simple part of travel into a high-stakes game where everyone thinks they've cracked the code. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The one airlines are quietly counting on. Almost everything you think you know about carry-on luggage is wrong, or at least dangerously incomplete. And these misconceptions aren't just costing you peace of mind. They're setting you up for fees, delays, and a special kind of public humiliation that only occurs at the jet bridge in front of a line of sighing strangers. So, let me ask you this right at the start. What's the one carry-on rule you've always followed religiously, convinced it was your golden ticket to smooth sailing, only to have it blow up in your face at the worst possible moment? I want you to really think about that, and I want you to share that story in the comments below, because I guarantee, by the end of our time together, you're going to see that moment in a whole new light, and you're going to understand exactly why it happened. Stick with me, and I'll explain not just the what of these 14 critical misunderstandings, but the why. The internal mechanics of airline revenue, TSA psychology, and gate agent discretion that they'll never print on your boarding pass. Let's start with the most seductive and pervasive myth of all, the idea of the regulation size carry-on. You've seen the stickers on luggage in department stores, the confident little tags that proclaim a bag is FAA approved, or fits most overhead bins. This is perhaps the greatest marketing trick ever played on travelers. There is no single regulation size. The Federal Aviation Administration doesn't set carry-on size limits for airlines. They set safety standards for what can be inside the cabin. The dimensions are entirely determined by each individual airline, and they vary, sometimes wildly. That beautiful hard-shell spinner you bought because it proudly displayed the dimensions 22x14x9, that might be perfect for Delta's mainline jets, but try to board a regional flight operated by Delta Connection on a CRJ-200 or an Embraer 145. Those planes have overhead bins that are essentially shelves for coats and small purses. Your regulation bag is going straight to the belly, no matter how much you protest. And here's where the real game is played. Airlines know this. They count on the fact that you'll buy a bag labeled for most airlines and then try to bring it onto their specific aircraft. The sizers at the gate aren't just for show, they're a revenue tool. If your bag fits in the sizer with a little room to spare, you're fine. If it requires a shove, a prayer, or a strategic rearrangement of the bin's internal geometry, you've already lost. The agents aren't being petty. They are executing a calculated plan to ensure the plane departs on time, because a single bag that doesn't fit can delay boarding by 5 minutes as they tag it and send it below. Multiply that by several bags, and you have a delayed departure, which costs the airline real money. So, the first thing you must internalize is that your bag suitability isn't about a sticker. It's about the specific aircraft type on your specific route, which can change even after you've booked. Always, and I mean always, check the carry-on dimensions for your operating airline, not the marketing carrier, and then subtract an inch from each measurement in your mind for good measure. This leads us directly into the second grand misunderstanding. The belief that if you board early, your bag is guaranteed space. We've all rushed to get Group 1 or priority boarding, elbowing past fellow passengers with the smug assurance that the overhead kingdom is ours. But this logic has a fatal flaw. It assumes every bag boarded before yours is a standard rollaboard. It's not. Early boarding groups are filled with passengers who also have a personal item and a carry-on, which for many includes the oversized backpack, the massive duffel, the garment bag draped over their arm, and sometimes a shopping bag from the airport mall. That doesn't really count. By the time Group 3 boards, the bins are already a chaotic jigsaw puzzle of items that technically shouldn't be there but were smiled through by a gate agent focused on keeping the line moving. The real space crisis isn't created by the last 10 passengers. It's created by the leniency granted to the first 50. Airlines have become stricter about policing the one personal item, one carry-on rule, but enforcement is wildly inconsistent. I've seen gate agents stop a man for a backpack that was clearly too bulky, while letting a woman slide by with a backpack, a tote, and a pillow the size of a small child. The system is based on human discretion in a high-pressure environment, not robotic precision. Your early boarding status is an advantage, not a guarantee. The only true guarantee is having a bag that can fit under the seat in front of you if absolutely necessary. Which brings me to a crucial piece of advice. Never, ever place your bag in a bin across the aisle or several rows behind your seat. The moment the door closes and you're buckled in, that bag is gone. You will not be allowed to get up and retrieve it. You'll land at your destination and have to wait at the jet bridge like a lost child, hoping someone honest turns it in. It happens more than you think. Now, let's talk about weight. If you've never flown on an international budget carrier or some airlines in Asia and Europe, you might think carry-ons are only judged by size. Oh, how I envy that innocence. Many airlines, including some that operate within the U.S. as partners to major carriers, have strict weight limits for carry-ons, often 15 or 20 pounds, and they will check. I was once in Dublin Airport, about to board a transatlantic flight, and watched as a gate agent calmly placed a handheld scales hook through the handle of every single roll aboard. Bags that failed were tagged and taken, no arguments accepted. The passengers were stunned. They'd survived the size sizer, only to be defeated by a number on a scale. The reasoning here is again about safety and manpower. Overhead bins have weight limits. A bin crammed with 5 40-pound bags is a hazard. Furthermore, flight attendants are not required to lift heavy bags for passengers. It's a leading cause of injury. So, the airline enforces a limit to protect their crew and their equipment. But here's what they don't tell you. The weigh-in is often a spot check, a psychological deterrent. If you look like you're struggling to heave your bag into the sizer, you're a target. If you roll up with effortless grace, you're less likely to be flagged. This is where understanding the theater of the airport is key. Appear competent, light, and unburdened. Distribute weight between your personal item and your carry-on. Wear your heavy jacket and boots. Put your dense electronics in your personal item, which is almost never weighed. The goal is to pass the visual test, because if you look like you're carrying bricks, you've already invited scrutiny. Number 4 is a subtle but costly mistake, misunderstanding the personal item definition. Most travelers think purse or laptop bag. The airlines define it as something that fits under the seat in front of you. This is not a suggestion, it's a physical necessity on a full flight. That stylish weekender bag you use as a personal item, if its edges are spilling into the footwell of the person next to you, it's not a personal item, it's a second carry-on. Flight attendants are increasingly tasked with policing this during boarding, because an oversized personal item means someone else's approved carry-on won't fit in the overhead, creating a domino effect of delay. The underseat space is also not created equal. Exit row and bulkhead seats have no underseat storage during takeoff and landing for safety reasons. If you're assigned those seats, your personal item must go overhead, which means your carry-on logic has to flip entirely. You need a carry-on that can fit in the bin, and a personal item so small it can be stowed in the bin with your carry-on without taking up another space. It's a puzzle most people don't solve until a flight attendant is handing them a bright pink gate check tag. Let's dive into the 5th area of confusion: liquids and the TSA 311 rule. Everyone knows the basics: 3.4 ounces, 1 quart-size bag, 1 bag per passenger. But this is where theory meets the messy reality of the security checkpoint. The rule isn't about the size of the container, it's about the potential volume. A half-empty 8-ounce toothpaste tube is prohibited because it could contain more than 3.4 ounces. A solid stick of deodorant is fine, but a gel deodorant is a liquid. Spreadable cheese? Liquid. Snow globes? Liquid if they contain more than 3.4 ounces of liquid. The TSA officer's discretion is absolute here. I've seen them let a slightly overstuffed bag slide, and I've seen them make a traveler throw away a brand new $50 face cream because the jar was 4 ounces, even if it was only a quarter full. The common mistake is packing your liquids bag at the bottom of your carry-on. When the TSA agent asks to see it, you have to unpack your entire bag in front of the line, holding everyone up, creating a stressful situation where you're more likely to forget something in the bin. Your liquids bag should be in the most accessible pocket of your bag, ready to be pulled out and placed in a bin alone. Even better, treat the quart bag as your in-airport kit. Don't keep your full-sized liquids in your checked luggage and your travel-sized in your carry-on. Keep your entire toiletry regimen in that 1-quart bag and move it from your carry-on to your hotel bathroom and back. It becomes a system, not a last-minute scramble. And a warning, the TSA-approved locks on your bag mean nothing for your carry-on. TSA can and will cut any non-TSA lock on checked baggage if they need to inspect it, but for carry-ons, if your bag alarms, they are taking you and your bag to a screening table. They will open it in front of you. A lock just slows that down and annoys everyone. Use a simple zipper, or better yet, a packing cube you don't mind them rifling through. This leads perfectly into the sixth misunderstanding, that security is the final boss. For your carry-on, the gate is the real boss. You can be a TSA ninja, sailing through security with your perfectly packed liquids bag and your shoes off in record time, and still be utterly defeated at the gate. Gate checking is not a punishment. It's a standard operational procedure on full flights. The airline knows the plane's bin capacity. They know how many bags are likely to be on board based on the ticket type sold. If they predict a space shortfall, they will offer free voluntary gate checking, usually for groups 4 and higher. This is not a kindness. It's a preemptive strike to avoid a chaotic, delay-causing scramble at the door of the aircraft. The smart move is often to take the offer, especially if your final destination is the bag claim anyway. You get to skip the fight for bin space, you deplane freely, and your bag comes out on the carousel. The mistake is refusing, banking on being the exception, and then being forced to gate check at the aircraft door in a last-minute panic, often with less care taken with your bag. But here's the critical nuance. When you gate check, you must understand the tag. A pink tag usually means your bag will be returned at the jet bridge upon arrival, a valet service. A white or green tag often means it's going all the way to the baggage claim. Listen to the agent's instructions. If they say plane side return, they mean it. If they say final destination, that's where it's going. Don't assume. Number 7 is a favorite of the travel hacker crowd. The idea that you can circumvent rules by wearing all your bulky items. The wear your layers strategy. On paper, it's brilliant. In practice, you look like the Michelin Man sweating through security, and you've made yourself a target for secondary screening. A bulky, puffy jacket is a nightmare for millimeter wave scanners. It can obscure your silhouette, requiring a pat-down. Multiple layers mean more items to remove and place in bins, slowing you down. And once you're on the plane, you're stuck with a pile of clothing that now needs to be stowed, defeating the purpose. There's a balance. Wear your heaviest shoes and your mid-weight jacket. Pack the puffy coat if you need it. The goal is efficiency, not looking like you're fleeing a disaster in your entire wardrobe. Now let's get into the electronics realm. Mistake number 8, assuming all power banks and cords are created equal for carry-on purposes. The FAA prohibits spare lithium-ion batteries in checked luggage above a certain watt-hour rating, usually 100 watt. They must be in your carry-on. This is because a battery fire in the cabin can be addressed. One in the cargo hold can be catastrophic. So, we all know to keep our power banks with us. But the mistake is in the spare part. A battery inside a device, like your laptop or camera, can be in checked luggage, though it's not recommended. The TSA doesn't really care about the watt-hour rating. They're looking for bombs. The airline doesn't check at the gate. The risk comes if your bag is selected for a random search, or if you have an extremely high-capacity, industrial-looking power bank that draws attention. Furthermore, tangled nests of cords and cables look suspicious on an X-ray. They appear as dense organic masses that can conceal other items. I once had my bag pulled because of a jumble of charging cables, USB cords, and headphones. The agent spent 10 minutes untangling my mess to verify it was just a mess. Now I use a simple cable organizer or even just rubber bands. Neatness signals control and order, which subconsciously signals safety to the officer screening hundreds of bags an hour. The 9th error is one of overconfidence, believing that because you got away with something once, it's a rule. Travel forums are filled with this anecdotal fallacy. I always bring my full-size shampoo, and they never stop me. My backpack is clearly oversized, but I've never been gate-checked. This is survivor bias. For every person who brags about their successful hack, there are 10 who got caught and didn't post about their $75 gate check fee or their abandoned favorite moisturizer. Enforcement ebbs and flows. It depends on the airport. ORT is famously strict, while some smaller airports can be more relaxed. The time of day, how busy the flight is, and the individual mood of the agent. Basing your travel strategy on the exception, rather than the rule, is a recipe for a costly surprise. Your luck will run out, and it will be on the trip where you're running late for a wedding or a critical business meeting. Number 10 is a psychological trap, packing your carry-on as if it's your only bag, even when you're checking luggage. The carry-on's primary purpose is not to be a miniature version of your suitcase. Its purpose is contingency and immediate need. Its job is to ensure your survival and comfort if your checked bag is lost or delayed for 24-48 hours, and to hold the items you need during the flight itself. Yet, people fill it with non-essentials, extra shoes, bulk souvenirs bought on the outbound trip. Your carry-on should be a lifeboat, not the cruise ship. It needs a change of clothes, essential toiletries, critical medications, vital electronics and their chargers, important documents, and maybe one thing for comfort, like a light wrap or good headphones. If you're checking a bag, your carry-on should be light and strategic. The heavier and more packed it is, the more it screams, "Check me," to a gate agent looking to free up bin space. Let's talk about mistake 11, a technical one. Misinterpreting the rules around food and gifts. Solid food is perfectly fine in your carry-on. A sandwich, an apple, a bag of chips, no issue. But spreadable food? That's a liquid or gel. Yogurt, pudding, hummus, peanut butter, unless it's in a single-serving packet under 3.4 Oz. Fresh, soft cheese, all subject to the 3-1-1 rule. The classic holiday disaster is trying to bring grandma's homemade jam or a special sauce from a trip through security. It will be confiscated. As for gifts, never wrap them before flying. If a wrapped gift triggers an alarm, security will unwrap it. They will not re-wrap it. They will hand you back a torn piece of paper and your now exposed snow globe. The best practice is to carry the gift and wrapping materials separately, or ship it ahead. Mistake 12 is about compliance theater, making a show of being prepared in a way that actually backfires. This is the traveler who, at the start of the security line, is already removing their belt, shoes, watch, and jewelry, holding up their liquids bag like a trophy, and shouting to their family about laptops. They create a mini traffic jam before the bins are even available. Real efficiency is about timed preparation. Have your ID and boarding pass ready for the first agent. Then, as you approach the conveyor, then remove your shoes and belt. Your laptop comes out of its sleeve just before it goes into a bin. Your liquids bag comes from the easy access pocket. You move with the rhythm of the line, not your own frantic script. This doesn't just help you, it makes you invisible to the officers, which is what you want. The person causing a bottleneck is the person who gets remembered, and not in a good way. We're nearing the end, and number 13 is absolutely critical. Forgetting that the rules apply on the way home too. You mastered the outbound journey. You packed perfectly. You got through security. Your bag fit. You're relaxed. Then you go on your trip. You buy souvenirs. You acquire stuff. That delicate seashell from the coast? It might be considered a potential weapon. That beautiful artisan knife you bought at a market? Definitely a weapon. That extra bottle of local rum you stuffed in your now overstuffed carry-on? A liquid over the limit. The TSA doesn't care that you didn't have it on the way out. The gate agent doesn't care that your bag fit before you bought a heavy stone statue. The return trip is a completely new game with the same rules, but you are now a more burdened player. Always leave significant space in your carry-on for the return, or plan to check a bag on the way home. The heartbreak of surrendering a carefully chosen souvenir because you got clever is a special kind of travel pain. Finally, the 14th and perhaps most profound misunderstanding, believing that carrying on is always the superior choice. This is the cult of the carry-on. We've been told checking a bag is for suckers, for the inexperienced, for those who don't travel smart. This is a myth perpetuated by people who love to feel superior and by airlines who love to charge for it. Sometimes checking a bag is the wiser, more civilized, and even more economical choice. Consider the cost. If you're traveling with a partner, one checked bag, $30–40, might hold both your clothing, leaving you with two small, light, truly carry-on-sized bags and two personal items for the cabin. You bypass the gate check drama entirely. You walk through the airport unburdened. You board without stress. You have legroom under the seat in front of you. On a tight connection, you might even choose to gate check your roller for free to sprint through the terminal. The calculus has changed. When basic economy fares became the norm, they often included only a personal item. Adding a carry-on might cost $60 round trip. Adding a checked bag might be $60 round trip. For the same price, you get to offload the physical and mental burden of hauling and fighting for your luggage. For a longer trip, or one with multiple destinations, checking a bag can be a form of self-care, not a mark of failure. So there you have it. 14 pillars of conventional carry-on wisdom, shaken to their core. It's not about beating the system with a clever hack. It's about understanding the system's true motives: revenue, efficiency, safety, and operational predictability, and flowing with it, not against it. Your carry-on strategy should be flexible, humble, and based on the reality of human-enforced rules, not internet lore. Pack light, pack smart. Know the specific rules for your specific journey, and always have a plan B that involves that bag going below without ruining your day. Because the goal isn't to win a battle against the airline at the gate. The goal is to arrive at your destination calm, prepared, and ready for whatever comes next. Now, go back to that question I asked you at the beginning. What was your rule that failed? Does it make a little more sense now? Share it below. I read everyone. And the next time you're in that gatehouse, watching the pre-boarding scramble, you'll see it all with new eyes. Not as a chaotic mess, but as a predictable dance where now, finally, you know the steps. Safe travels.